Hey, survivors, Camille from Surviving the Badge with a Delphi murder update. The Carroll County Clerk of Court has released the charging affidavit for Richard Allen. Let's discuss that, shall we? All right, so John, Ronnie, and I did an episode a couple of weeks ago on the Delphi murder case. Happened in 2017, and 2017, February 13th, Abigail Williams and Liberty German, 13 years and 14 years respectively. They went to an area called High Bridge, and it's an old railroad bridge, and there's trails and all that kind of stuff, and they were dropped off in the afternoon. They did not show up at their respective rendezvous time. And what happened was they started looking for them, and unfortunately on February 14th they were both found murdered. And huge investigation, lots of interviews. Unfortunately, the case went unsolved for nearly 6 years. This past October, there was an arrest made of Richard M. Allen. And we did this episode, and we speculated, John and I speculated, we thought that the reason why they caught up with this guy was familial DNA. And if you don't know what familial DNA is, it's all over the internet. The Golden Gate Killer was caught by this. It's where somebody in the killer's family submits their DNA to see if they're Vikings. My wife is like 90% Viking. I'm worried that she's going to hit me with a battle axe sometime. But so what happens is these people send it off to, hey, I'm, Swedish and all that kind of stuff. And there's a mechanism to check DNA that's in CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System, with this familial DNA. And we speculated that the reason why the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and Clerk of Court was sealing this was because of this fact, that it was familial DNA. And we even bet a cigar on it. Well, we were both wrong. Dun, dun, dun. But that's okay. Today, they have released the probable cause affidavit, and I have it right here. I've downloaded it. I've perused it. I've gone over it with a fine-tooth comb, if you will. And it's actually pretty interesting. This guy made a lot of mistakes, thank goodness. So law enforcement, reading through this affidavit, they started interviewing individuals who were in that area at the time when this occurred. And there were several witnesses that saw an individual who matched a guy who was a picture was taken by one of the victims, Liberty German. Let me backtrack just a little bit. Liberty German, she took a video and a photograph of a white male, heavy-set, dark clothing, blue jeans, and either a black or a blue jean jacket coming towards her. And the recording also, as the guy was coming closer, and we speculate that Liberty must have put the phone in her pocket and left it recording, because what you hear is the guy approaching them and telling them, get down the hill. Well, in the affidavit, they also released that there was a mention of a gun on the audio recording. And then there's nothing left. And these girls were found killed just a little bit away, about a half a mile away from the High Bridge where they were hiking. They never released the cause of death. It was homicide. They ruled it a homicide, and I'm going to speculate later what I believe the cause of death was. Law enforcement comes in, they're interviewing several witnesses, and several witnesses say that they saw an individual in the area of where the girls were found, matching the girls' video phone description. And I'm going to put that in the video so you can see it. And he's wearing blue jeans, heavy set, not too tall, dark clothing, and his face is obscured. You can't make out who it is. And the witnesses, according to the affidavit, and I've highlighted some things on here, they all mention the same description, same height, same description of this individual who was seen on the video. One of them even said that when he encountered the male in this area, he seemed kind of creepy, not very tall, with a bigger build, and the witness said no bigger than 5'10", so kind of stocky. And they interviewed several of these individuals. One of them stated that they went to talk to the individual and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Friendly. I guess Indiana folks in Delphi are friendly. And this person said nothing back. And the witness said he appeared to be on a purpose, walking purposeful into where he was going. Another one said blue jeans, black jacket, just the same person described by about 4 different witnesses in this area, according to the affidavit. Now, the affidavit also lists something that was kind of interesting. Between the 2 victims, not even more than a 1.5 feet away from the victims, they found a 40 caliber cartridge. It hadn't been fired. A cartridge is, if you think of the bullet, the shell casing, and everything combined, has not been fired. They found this near the body, about a 1.5 feet away from one of the girls here. And when they looked at it, and they mentioned it in the affidavit, you could tell by the breech face marks and the bottom of the shell casing, where the extractor removes the shell casing from the gun, that there was marks on there. So it had been cycled through a handgun, and it was just lying there. And I thought that was very, very interesting. So they're talking to these witnesses. Another witness stated that when they were coming back on the trail, they saw a car that was backed into an older parking spot near a building, and they thought that was weird. There's usually cars there, but this one seemed out of place because it seemed like it was kind of trying to hide, disguise its license plate, if you will. So that was another witness. They described a vehicle that was either a PT Cruiser or a small SUV, and a lot of this vehicle stuff was seen on video by a nearby business. And so they were able to confirm the stories. They were able to confirm when the girls were dropped off, this vehicle, a number of things through this nearby video camera. So on page 3 or 4, after all these other witnesses, there's a final witness who observed a male subject walking west, and this is a direct quote from the affidavit. Male subject walking west on the north side of 300, away from the high bridge. He was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. That's a direct quote from the witness, and had appeared to be in a fight. So that's from the witness, and that's from the affidavit. One of the other parts of the affidavit was that Richard Allen, who was ultimately been arrested for this, was interviewed in 2017. Police officers interviewed him. They probably got a lot of leads, and they follow up. So what happens if you get a major case? You set up a phone line, and tips and phone calls will come in, and you hand out those leads to officers to track those down, and then the officers will make a report. I've done this several times on major cases, and you write a report, and that goes into the system, and you follow up, and you know, it is what it is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it just sits there and isn't good yet, but ultimately it turns out to be a good lead. So they found this lead, and he said that they talked to Richard Allen, and he admitted to being on the trail between 3:30 in the afternoon and 1:30 in the afternoon and 3:30, the same time that the victims were there. And he stated that he parked in that same area where one of the witnesses said that there was a vehicle parked obscurely, maybe hiding his license plate. And he admitted to all this. He admitted to being there. But he further admitted that, no, I didn't realize, I saw a couple of people, but I was not really paying attention. It was just, kind of real vague. I was on my phone watching the stock reports, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing really happens to this lead. There's a note in the lead from the officer who has said, follow-up information, who were the 3 girls walking? Because he had mentioned he saw some girls walking, and those happen to be the witnesses. And detectives, they're working this case, and it appears to me that because this case went almost 5 years, almost 6 years unsolved, so it appears to me that maybe they looked at it as a new lead, fresh eyes, maybe kind of like a cold case, and they said, you know what, let's look at absolutely everything we have on this case and see if we can develop anything new. And so what they ended up doing was October 13th, 2022, they went and interviewed Richard Allen once again. He admitted that he was on the trails on the 13th, the day these girls were murdered or disappeared. He stated he saw some juveniles in the trails. He was there looking at fish, all that stuff. And he admitted to wearing blue jeans and a blue or a dark colored hoodie while he was there. He told investigators that he did own a firearm, a handgun, and they kind of went with that. They followed up and they interviewed Allen's wife, and she confirmed that he did have guns, and he did have a knife, and he had owned knives, and they were also at the residence. And he owned blue jeans, dark colored jackets, and he still had them. October 13th, 22. So the same day that they did an interview, they executed a search warrant on Allen's house. And guess what they found? Yes, they found a handgun. They found jackets. They found a Sig Sauer model P226 40 caliber handgun. Dun, dun, dun. If you recall, 40 caliber handgun or 40 caliber cartridge was found at the murder scene. October 14th, the very next day, they take the handgun to the Indiana State Police to do some examination on the handgun. They wanted to make sure it actually worked. They wanted to do a test firing, and they wanted to do ballistics. If you don't know, ballistics testing is where you have either a shell casing or a bullet, and you see if the marks from the barrel, the extractor, the ejector, the breech face all match up with the shell casing. And guess what they found out? Yes, they found out that this gun in the possession of Richard Allen was the very gun that cartridge that was found at the scene came from. No doubt. They said, yes, this cartridge that we found at the crime scene was cycled through Richard Allen's gun. Pretty tricky here, too. They probably asked him, hey, did you ever loan your gun to anybody? And he said, no, never have I ever loaned a gun to anybody. So how do you explain that your gun left a cartridge that was cycled through your gun at the scene of the murder? So they ended up arresting him and charging him with the 2 counts of murder using all of the evidence. Now, my question was, I understand if there was a shell casing or 2 shell casings, but this is a full cartridge that was found at the scene. So what is that? And they've never released the cause of death, manner of death. And what I'm speculating here is that my gut tells me that he didn't use the firearm to kill these girls. I think he used a knife. Maybe he thought that because there were people on the bridge and on the trail that using the gun was too loud. He probably used a gun to threaten, to order, to scare, to intimidate. But my speculation is that he used the knife to commit the murders. The one witness said that he was bloody And if you're using a gun on somebody, you're usually not going to be bloody. That happens when you use a knife on somebody. That's my speculation. So they released the affidavit. It's interesting reading. You can download it. I'll probably put a link in the description below, and we will follow this case even further. And if there are more updates, we will let you know. Before I go, I want to make sure that you guys reach out to our sponsors. Okay, ARackAbove and Tom Clem Investments and Property, and make sure that you like and you click and you subscribe, and tell us what you think about these cases. Give us a note in the comment section. Share this. We're trying to get 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and you can help us out with that. So once again, always at Surviving the Badge. We still got your 6.